The morning sun rose over the rocky mountains of Drakkar 7, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Inside the human embassy, Soman hummed softly as she prepared breakfast for her family. Her husband Hyon sat at the table, reading reports on his datapad. In the corner of the room, their 6-month-old son June played with colorful blocks on a soft mat. Life on Drakkar 7 had been good to them. When they first arrived 3 years ago as part of the diplomatic mission, Somin had been nervous. The Drakkari were huge creatures standing over 9 feet tall with scales that glittered like precious stones. Their teeth were sharp, their claws deadly, and their eyes held the wisdom of thousands of years. But the Drakkari had been kind hosts, and slowly, carefully, trust had grown between the two species. The greatest surprise had been Queen Mirai herself. The Dragon Queen ruled Drakkar 7 with strength and honor. Her obsidian scales were darker than night, and her golden eyes could pierce through any lie. She was feared across the galaxy, respected by her people, and utterly alone. An injury from an ancient war had left her unable to have children of her own. It was a wound that never healed, a pain she carried in silence. Everything changed when baby June was born. Hyon remembered the day clearly. They had been required to present their newborn to the Queen as part of diplomatic protocol. He had been terrified, holding his tiny son close as they walked into the throne room. Queen Mirai had descended from her seat, her massive form towering over them. She had looked at the baby for a long moment, and then something remarkable happened. Her fierce expression softened. She had asked very gently if she could hold him. Soman had hesitated only a moment before placing June in the Queen's enormous clawed hands. The baby had looked up at the Dragon Queen and laughed. It was a pure, joyful sound that echoed through the throne room. Queen Mirai had stood frozen, tears gathering in her golden eyes. From that day forward, she requested that baby June attend all diplomatic meetings. Now 6 months later, it had become routine. 3 times a week, Hyon and Soman brought June to the palace. The Queen would hold him during discussions, letting the baby play with her necklaces and touch her scales. Her advisors had been shocked at first, but they grew accustomed to the sight of their fierce ruler cooing at a human infant. Ambassador Tajan, the elderly human who had lived among the Drakkari for 20 years, had explained it to them one evening. The Drakkari valued family above all else. They lived for centuries, and children were rare and precious. To see their queen bond with a child, even a human one, had touched something deep in their culture. Hyon looked up from his datapad as someone knocked on their door. It was their assistant, looking worried. "Sir, there's been some unusual ship activity detected near the planet. Security wants everyone to stay inside the embassy today." Hyon frowned. "What kind of ships?" "Unknown origin. They're still investigating." Soman picked up June, holding him close. "Should we be worried?" "Just a precaution," the assistant said, but his voice lacked confidence. The day passed slowly. Hyon tried to work, but kept checking the security feeds. Soman played with June, keeping him entertained despite her growing unease. By evening, the all-clear had not been given. They decided to put June to bed early. That was when everything went wrong. The lights in the embassy suddenly went dark. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Alarms began to wail. Hyon grabbed his communicator. "What's happening?" Static answered him. The communications were down. Soman rushed to June's room. Hyon followed, his heart pounding. They could hear sounds now, crashes, shouts, the unmistakable sound of weapons fire. Someone was attacking the embassy. They burst into June's room just as a figure in dark armor smashed through the window. More figures followed. They moved with professional efficiency, not human, not Drakkari. Their armor bore no markings, no identification. These were not soldiers. They were something worse. "No!" Soman screamed as one of the intruders grabbed June from his crib. The baby wailed in terror. Hyon threw himself at the armored figure but was knocked aside easily. He crashed into the wall, dazed. Soman clawed at the intruder holding her son, but another grabbed her, holding her back. "High-value specimen secured," a cold voice said through a helmet speaker. "Extracting now." They moved toward the broken window where a hovercraft waited outside. Hyon struggled to his feet, reaching out desperately. "Please, please don't take him." The intruders ignored him. Within seconds, they were gone, taking baby June with them. The hovercraft disappeared into the night sky. Soman collapsed, sobbing. Hyon held her, his own tears streaming down his face. Security forces rushed in moments too late. The attack had been surgical, precise. They had hit 3 locations in the embassy simultaneously, overwhelming security. But they had only taken one thing. One person. They had taken baby June. Ambassador Taejin arrived within the hour. His old face creased with worry and anger. "We're tracking them," he said. "Human ships are already scrambling. We'll contact the Galactic Union, file emergency protocols. How long will that take?" Hyun demanded, his voice raw. "Days, maybe weeks. These things have procedures, and weeks?" Salman's voice broke. "Our baby, and I know," Taejin said gently. "I know. But we must follow the law." They identified the attackers by morning. The Velkrin Syndicate, notorious traffickers who operated in the lawless regions of space. They stole rare and valuable beings, selling them to collectors across the galaxy. A human baby would be prized, exotic, illegal, and expensive. The human government filed formal complaints. Investigators began gathering evidence. Diplomats made stern statements. But everyone knew the truth. By the time the bureaucracy moved, baby June could be anywhere in the galaxy. Hyun and Somin sat in their devastated home, numb with grief and helplessness. They had followed all the rules, trusted in the system, and now their son was gone. That was when Queen Mirai arrived. They heard her before they saw her, the thunder of heavy footsteps, the scrape of claws on metal floors. The Queen did not wait for announcements or protocols. She tore open the door to their quarters, her eyes blazing with fury unlike anything they had ever seen. "Where?" she demanded, her voice shaking the walls. "Where is my child?" "They took him," Somin whispered. The Velkrin took June. The sound that came from Queen Mirai was not quite a roar and not quite a scream. It was the sound of a mother whose child had been stolen. Her bioplasma breath ignited, flames licking around her teeth. The temperature in the room spiked. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Taejin began, "we are following proper channels." "Proper channels?" Mirai's voice was deadly quiet now, which was somehow more terrifying than her rage. "They stole a child. They stole my child. The Galactic Union has procedures. I am done with procedures." Queen Mirai turned and strode from the room. Hyun and Somin followed, along with a growing crowd of humans and Drakari. She walked straight to the throne room where her council was already gathering, summoned by her fury. She climbed to her throne and stood before it, her full height on display. Every eye in the room was fixed on her. "Hear me now," Queen Mirai said, her voice carrying to every corner. "The child June, son of Hyun and Somin, is under my protection. He is a child of House Drakar. He is my child, and he has been stolen by criminals who believe themselves beyond justice." She paused, and in that silence a choice was made. "I invoke the blood hunt. I will find those who took my child. I will burn their ships, shatter their bases, and tear apart anyone who stands between me and him. This I swear by the old fire." The throne room erupted. The blood hunt was ancient law superseding all others. Once invoked, nothing could stop it. Queen Mirai looked down at Hyun and Somin. "I will bring him home. This I promise you." For the first time since their son was taken, Somin felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The Drakari fleet assembled in orbit within hours. Massive warships that had defended Drakar 7 for centuries, now prepared for a different kind of mission. On the command deck of the flagship Burning Dawn, Queen Mirai stood before the viewing screen, her claws gripping the rail hard enough to leave marks in the metal. Commander Bora approached, her crimson scales gleaming in the ship's lights. She was the Queen's oldest friend and fiercest warrior. She had fought in a dozen wars and never questioned an order. But today her face showed concern. "My Queen, the Galactic Union is demanding we stand down. They say this is not our jurisdiction." "Tell them I do not recognize their authority over my family," Mirai said coldly. "They threaten sanctions. They say you are starting an interspecies incident." Mirai turned and Bora took an involuntary step back at the fury in those golden eyes. "They may bring their sanctions. They may bring their fleets, but they will not stop me from finding my child." "Is that clear, Commander?" "Yes, my Queen." Bora bowed her head. "I simply wanted you to know what we face." "What we face is simple. Find the child. Destroy anyone who stands in our way." Footsteps echoed on the metal deck. Hyun and Somin entered, escorted by guards. They looked small and fragile among the towering Drakari, their eyes red from crying but their expressions determined. "Your Majesty," Hyun said, "we want to come with you." Several of the Drakari officers made sounds of surprise. Commander Bora's eyes narrowed. This is a military vessel on a combat mission. You are civilians. It is not appropriate. They are his parents, Queen Mirai interrupted. They have every right to be here. Prepare quarters for them. But my queen, that is my order, Commander. Bora bowed stiffly and walked away, clearly displeased. Soman clutched a small blanket that smelled like June, holding it against her chest like a lifeline. A young human in a naval uniform stepped forward. Your Majesty, I am Lieutenant Doyen from the Human Defense Force. I request permission to join your mission as a tactical advisor. You would leave your post? Mirai asked. With respect, ma'am, this is my post. Where you go, someone should be there to coordinate with human forces and... He glanced at Hyun and Soman. They're my people. I want to help. Queen Mirai studied him for a moment, then nodded. Welcome aboard, Lieutenant. The fleet jumped to hyperspace an hour later. The human government protested. The Galactic Union issued warnings. Queen Mirai ignored them all. She had the scent now. Drakari technology could track engine signatures that others missed. The Velkrin ships had left a trail, and she was following it like a predator after wounded prey. In their quarters, Soman sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Hyun paced, unable to be still. The room was designed for Drakari, making everything oversized and strange. But neither of them cared about comfort. He must be so scared, Somin whispered. He's just a baby. He doesn't understand. He's alive, Hyun said firmly. They took him for a reason, which means they need him alive. We'll find him. How can you be sure? Because she promised. Hyun looked toward the door, toward the command deck where Queen Mirai stood vigil. Did you see her eyes? She won't stop. Nothing will stop her. On the command deck, Lieutenant Doyen was coordinating with human intelligence networks, gathering information about the Velkrin Syndicate. What he learned made his blood run cold. Your Majesty, he said carefully, the Velkrin have bases throughout the Outer Rim. They're heavily fortified, and they have connections. Politicians, military officers, people who look the other way for the right price. Then those people will burn alongside them, Mirai said simply. It's not that simple. If you attack certain locations, you could trigger diplomatic incidents with multiple governments. Queen Mirai turned to face him fully. Lieutenant, let me make something very clear. I do not care about diplomatic incidents. I do not care about treaties or alliances or the delicate balance of galactic politics. They took my child. Everything else is meaningless. Doyen swallowed hard. He was young, trained to think in terms of rules and procedures, but looking at the Dragon Queen, he understood that she operated on a different level entirely. This was not politics. This was personal. I understand, ma'am. I'll help however I can. The fleet traveled for 3 days, jumping between systems following the trail. The Velkrin had tried to cover their tracks, but Drakari sensors were ancient and powerful. They found scattered evidence. Energy signatures, witness reports from remote stations, intercepted communications. Commander Bora began to see the humans differently during those days. She watched Hyun spend hours studying tactical displays, learning their systems, refusing to rest. She saw Soman reviewing files on Velkrin operations with fierce concentration, looking for any clue to where they might have taken June. And Lieutenant Doyen worked tirelessly, coordinating with both species, bridging the gap between human and Drakari forces. On the third night, Bora found Hyun on the observation deck staring out at the stars. You should rest, she said gruffly. Can't sleep, Hyun replied. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face. I hear him crying. Bora was quiet for a moment. Your queen. She truly loves him. I know. I see it every time she looks at him. The way she holds him so carefully, like he's made of glass. The way she smiles when he laughs. Hyun's voice broke. She's his mother too, in every way that matters. Among my people, Bora said slowly, family is not always blood. Sometimes it is choice. Sometimes it is love that binds stronger than any genetic tie. Your child is blessed to have 3 parents who would burn the galaxy for him. Hyun looked at the commander, surprised by the gentle tone from such a fierce warrior. Thank you, Commander. When we find him, and we will find him, I will personally ensure his safety, Bora promised. This I swear. The breakthrough came on the 4th day. An informant paid handsomely by human intelligence revealed a location, the Ashfall Nebula, a region of space thick with radiation and debris, perfect for hiding illegal operations. The Velcrin had a major base there, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Queen Mireille stood before the view screen, watching as the swirling colors of the nebula filled the display. Somewhere in there, her child waited. "Send them a message," she ordered. "What message, my queen?" the communications officer asked. "Tell them they have one cycle, 26 hours, to return the child unharmed to these coordinates. If they do, I will spare their lives." The message was sent. On the Velcrin base deep in the asteroid, Crime Lord Kretch received it. He was a tall, thin creature with too many joints and eyes that glittered with greed. He read the message and laughed. "The Dragon Queen threatens us? In our own territory?" He turned to his second-in-command. "Ignore it. She's bluffing. The Galactic Union won't allow her to attack. Sir, our sensors show a massive fleet entering the nebula, 20 Drakari warships. So, our shields can withstand anything they throw at us. This base has held against military assaults before." Kretch waved a dismissive hand. "Continue with the examination of the human infant. I have buyers who will pay millions for detailed biological data." In the research wing, Dr. Yuna, a Velcrin scientist, worked carefully. She was not like Kretch. She had not chosen this life out of cruelty, but necessity. Her family needed money, and the syndicate paid well. But as she looked at the crying human baby on the examination table, she felt something she had not expected. Guilt. The infant was terrified, crying for parents who were not there. His small hands reached out for comfort that would not come. Dr. Yuna completed her scans quickly, doing the minimum required. "Specimen shows remarkable neural plasticity," she reported to Kretch. "The human brain at this age is highly adaptable. With the right conditioning, this one could be trained for various purposes." "Excellent. Continue monitoring. I want complete data before the auction." The 26 hours passed slowly. On the burning dawn, Queen Mireille counted every minute. Hyon and Soman stood beside her, silent and tense. Commander Bora prepared the fleet for battle. Lieutenant Doyen coordinated with human ships that had quietly moved into supporting positions. When the deadline expired, Queen Mireille's expression did not change. She had expected this outcome. The Velcrin had made their choice. Now she would make hers. "All ships," she said quietly into the communication channel. "Attack formation. Target the asteroid base. No survivors." "Your Majesty," Bora said, "they have hostages, other prisoners besides the child. Then our soldiers will be careful." Mireille's eyes blazed. "But that base will fall. Today the galaxy learns what happens when someone steals a child from the Dragon Queen of Drakkar." The fleet moved forward, and the nebula lit up with weapons fire. The war had begun. The Velcrin base had been built to withstand attacks. Massive shields surrounded the asteroid, powered by reactors deep in its core. Automated defense turrets bristled from every surface. Inside, hundreds of criminals and their captives lived in a maze of tunnels and chambers carved from stone and reinforced with steel. Kretch watched the approaching Drakari fleet on his monitors and smiled confidently. "Let them come. Our shields have held against pirate raids, military strikes, even a Galactic Union patrol. They cannot touch us." The first Drakari warship opened fire. Plasma beams hot enough to melt through ship hulls struck the shields. They held just as Kretch had predicted. He laughed. Then the second ship fired. And the third. And the fourth. 20 massive warships unleashed everything they had all at once. The shields glowed bright, absorbing incredible amounts of energy. Warning lights began flashing throughout the base. "Shields at 70%, an officer reported, his voice uncertain now. "Impossible," Kretch said. "They should barely be at 90, 60%, 50%. Sir, they're not stopping." The Drakari fleet had one purpose and unlimited determination. Queen Mireille had brought enough firepower to crack a moon. She intended to use all of it. 30%. "The shields are failing." Kretch's confidence evaporated. "All defensive weapons, return fire. Launch fighters, get me reinforcements." But it was too late. The shields collapsed with a flash of light visible across the nebula. The asteroid base was naked, defenseless, and the Dragon Queen was not done. "Ground forces, prepare for boarding," Mireille commanded. "I want that base taken, room by room. Find my child." Assault craft launched from the warships carrying Drakari warriors eager for battle. But 3 other ships also launched. Human vessels, small and fast, slipped through the defensive fire. Inside one of them was Jaiho. a human special forces operative who had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. Remember, Lieutenant Doyen's voice crackled over the radio. We need the child alive. Priority 1 is locating and securing the target. Understood, Jiho replied, going in quiet. While the Drakari assaulted the main entrances with overwhelming force, Jiho's team approached from below. They found a maintenance tunnel barely large enough for humans, far too small for Drakari. Perfect. Inside the base, alarms wailed. Velkrin guards rushed to defensive positions, but they were not prepared for what hit them. Drakari warriors were 7 feet of muscle, scale, and fury. They had trained for centuries. Worse, they were angry. Commander Bora led the main assault, her bioplasma breath turning corridors into furnaces. Behind her, a mixed force of Drakari and human soldiers advanced. She had been surprised when Hyun demanded to join the ground team. She had been more surprised when Queen Mirai agreed. He is the father, Mirai had said simply. He has the right. Now Hyun fought alongside warriors twice his size, carrying a plasma rifle and wearing borrowed armor. He was not skilled, not trained for combat, but he fought with desperate determination, and that counted for something. A Velkrin guard appeared around a corner, weapon raised. Hyun fired first, his shot wild but lucky. The guard went down. Selman was right behind him, her own weapon steady. She had insisted on coming too, and no one had been able to tell her no. Contact left. A Drakari soldier roared. The battle raged through the corridors. The Velkrin fought back hard, but they were criminals, not soldiers. The Drakari were warriors born. The difference showed quickly. Deep in the base, Dr. Yuna heard the explosions getting closer. She looked at baby June, still crying on the examination table. The child's face was red from screaming, his small body shaking with fear. I'm sorry, she whispered to him. I am so sorry. She made a decision then. She picked up the baby, wrapped him in a blanket, and held him close. June quieted slightly, responding to gentle touch after hours of fear. Her laboratory door exploded inward. A human soldier appeared, weapon raised. Jiho had found them. Don't shoot, Yuna cried, holding up one hand while clutching the baby with the other. Please, I have the child. Jiho kept his weapon trained on her but spoke into his radio. Target located. Research Wing, Section 7. I have the package. Is he hurt? Lieutenant Doyen's voice demanded. Jiho moved closer, his eyes scanning baby June. The infant was crying but appeared unharmed. Negative. Package appears intact. Scared but okay. Secure him and extract. We're sending coordinates. Dr. Yuna handed the baby over without resistance. Please take him. I did not hurt him. I could not. He is just a child. Jiho took June carefully, the baby looking impossibly small in his armored hands. Why did you help? Because I am a mother too, Yuna said quietly. And I know what it means to lose a child. Go, before Kretch finds you. But it was too late. The door behind Jiho exploded and Velkrin guards poured in. Jiho spun, shielding the baby with his body as weapons fire erupted. He fired back, taking down 2 guards, but there were too many. Then the wall exploded. Queen Mirai crashed through solid stone like it was paper. Her bioplasma breath turned the nearest guards into ash. Her claws tore through armor like cloth. She was a living weapon, ancient and unstoppable, and she had followed the sound of her child's cries. The remaining guards tried to run. None of them made it far. Mirai stood in the center of the destroyed room, breathing hard, her eyes wild until they focused on Jiho, on the baby he held. Her expression transformed instantly from fury to desperate hope. Is he hurt? Her voice shook. No, Your Majesty. He's okay, just scared. Mirai crossed the room in 2 strides and gently took June from Jiho's arms. The baby looked up at her familiar face and his crying stopped. He reached out with tiny hands touching her scales. My child, Mirai whispered, her voice breaking. My precious child. Hyun and Soman burst into the room moments later, having fought their way through with the Drakari forces. When Somin saw her son safe in the Queen's arms, she collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. Mirai knelt beside her, carefully placing June in his mother's arms. He is home. He is safe. Someone held her baby close, kissing his face, checking him over with shaking hands. Hyun wrapped his arms around both of them, tears streaming down his face. Commander Bora entered, her armor scorched and blood-stained. My queen, we have captured the crime lord Kretch. What are your orders? Mirai stood and the softness vanished from her expression. Bring him to me. They dragged Kretch into the room. He was injured, bleeding, his arrogance completely gone. He looked at Queen Mirai and knew he was going to die. "You stole a child," Mirai said, her voice cold as space. "You took an infant from those who loved him. You treated him as property, as merchandise. For this there is no forgiveness." "Please," Kretch begged. "I was just following orders. I have information, valuable information. You have nothing I want." Mirai's claws flashed once. Kretch fell, dead before he hit the ground. The room was silent. Even the battle sounds from distant corridors seemed muted. Elder Sunwoo, an ancient Drakari warrior who had come out of retirement for this mission, stepped forward. He looked at Hyun and Salmon, at the human soldiers, at the mixed forces of two species united in purpose. "I have lived for 8 centuries, he said slowly. "I have fought in wars across the galaxy. I have seen every species fight for territory, for resources, for pride. But this is different." "How so?" Lieutenant Doyen asked. "Humans fight like you have nothing to lose. But more than that, you form bonds that transcend species, that make others willing to fight alongside you. Your child," he gestured to baby June, "has brought 2 species together in a way no treaty ever could." Commander Bora, who had been skeptical of the humans at first, nodded slowly. "He is right. I did not understand before, but I watched you, Hyun. You are not a warrior, yet you fought through armed enemies to reach your son. And you, Soman, you would have burned this entire base with your bare hands if necessary. This is humanity's strength, not weapons or technology, but this love that knows no boundaries." "It is not just human," Mirai said softly, still gazing at June. "It is what happens when species truly see each other, when they look past scales or skin and recognize the heart beneath." Jiho helped Dr. Yuna to her feet. "What about her?" "She helped us." Mirai looked at the Velcrin scientist. "You could have hurt him. You chose not to. Why?" "Because I could not hurt an innocent," Yuna said simply. "I do not expect mercy, Your Majesty, but I hope my choice means something." "It means everything," Mirai said. "You will come with us. You will testify against the Syndicate, and you will be given a chance to start again if you wish it." Yuna bowed deeply, tears in her strange eyes. The battle for the base was over within the hour. The Velcrin Syndicate's main stronghold had fallen. Prisoners were freed, evidence was gathered, and the galaxy learned that the Dragon Queen kept her promises. As they prepared to leave, Hyun approached Queen Mirai. "Your Majesty, thank you. Thank you for bringing him home." Mirai touched June's cheek gently with one clawed finger.
"Thank me?"
"He is my child too. I would burn 1,000 worlds to keep him safe." "I know," Hyun said quietly. "I see it, and I am grateful that he has you to protect him." They returned to the fleet to the burning dawn and began the journey home. But across the galaxy word was spreading. The Dragon Queen had invoked the Blood Hunt. She had destroyed a fortified base. She had executed a crime lord, all for a human child she called her own, and the galaxy would never forget it. The medical bay on the burning dawn was designed for Drakari physiology, but the medical officers had quickly adapted it for a tiny human patient. Baby June lay on a padded examination table while Nurse Yoonji, a human medic who had joined the fleet, carefully checked him over. "No injuries," she reported, relief clear in her voice. "Some dehydration, some stress, but nothing permanent. He's going to be fine." Soman held her son's hand, unwilling to let go even for a moment. Hyun stood beside her, watching every reading on the medical displays as if he could will them to show better news through sheer concentration. Queen Mirai stood in the doorway, too large to enter the human-sized medical section comfortably. She had not left since they returned to the ship. Her golden eyes never left the child. "When can we take him to our quarters?" Soman asked. "Now, if you like," Yoonji said with a gentle smile. "He needs rest, familiarity, and love. You can give him all of those better than I can." As Hyun carefully lifted June, the baby made a small sound and reached toward the doorway. Toward Mirai, the queen's breath caught. "He knows you," Soman said softly. "Even after everything, he knows you. May I?" Mirai asked hesitantly. Hyun carried June to her. The queen took the baby with infinite care, her massive clawed hands cradling him as gently as a breath. June settled against her scales, his small fingers gripping the edge of her armor. Within moments he was asleep. "He feels safe with you," Hyun observed. "As he should," Commander Bora said, entering the medical bay. "Your Majesty, we have a situation." Mirai looked up, careful not to disturb the sleeping infant. What situation? The Galactic Union. Chancellor Inwu himself is here, demanding an audience. He came in a diplomatic cruiser with an escort of peacekeepers. Perfect timing, Mirai said dryly. After the battle is won and the child is safe. Where was the Galactic Union when we needed them? Your Majesty, he is quite insistent. And quite angry. Let him be angry. I will speak with him once the child is settled. An hour later, in the conference room of the Burning Dawn, Chancellor Inwu paced furiously. He was a tall, thin being from a species that prided itself on logic and order. His gray skin was flushed with anger, his multifaceted eyes glittering. This is absolutely unacceptable, he declared as Queen Mirai entered, followed by Commander Bora and Lieutenant Doyen. You launched an unauthorized military strike. You destroyed a facility without proper investigation. You executed a prisoner without trial. Do you understand the chaos you have caused? I understand that I rescued my child, Mirai said calmly, taking her seat at the head of the table. Something your precious Galactic Union failed to do. That child is not your... Inwu caught himself, but too late. The temperature in the room dropped. Every Drakari present turned to stare at the Chancellor with expressions of barely controlled fury. Finish that sentence, Mirai said, her voice deadly quiet. I want to hear what you were about to say. Inwu swallowed hard. I merely meant that biology is irrelevant, Commander Bora interrupted. Among the Drakari, family is chosen as often as it is born. The Queen has claimed that child as her own. To suggest otherwise is an insult to her honor. And mine, Hyun said, entering the room with Soman. They had not been invited to this meeting, but no one tried to stop them. Queen Mirai loves our son. She risked everything to save him. She is his family, just as we are. Chancellor Inwu looked around the room and realized he was losing this argument. He changed tactics. Be that as it may, you violated numerous galactic laws. You attacked a facility in neutral territory. You committed acts of war. Acts of war? Lieutenant Doyen spoke up. The Velkrin Syndicate is a criminal organization, not a government. They have no legal standing. They have connections, allies. You have created a diplomatic nightmare. Good, Mirai said simply. Let it be known across the galaxy that anyone who harms a child under my protection will face my wrath. Let your allies and connections understand that there is no place safe enough, no law complex enough, no bureaucracy slow enough to save them from me. You cannot simply ignore galactic law. I can, and I did. What will you do about it, Chancellor? Will you declare war on Drakkar 7? Will you send your peacekeepers to arrest me? Mirai leaned forward, her eyes blazing. I am the Dragon Queen. I have ruled my world for 3 centuries. I have defended it from pirates, invaders, and fools who thought they could dictate to me. You have no power here. The room fell silent. Chancellor Inwu looked at the assembled group. Drakari warriors, human soldiers, all united behind their queen. He was a bureaucrat, comfortable in meeting rooms and diplomatic chambers. But this was different. This was raw power and absolute conviction. Very well, he said stiffly. I see that reasoning with you is pointless. The Galactic Union will issue sanctions. You will do nothing, a new voice said. Everyone turned. Ambassador Taijin entered, moving slowly with the aid of a walking stick. The elderly human had been with the diplomatic mission, coordinating with other human governments. Now he carried a datapad that he placed on the conference table. While you were arguing, Chancellor, something interesting happened. 17 human colonies have formally requested Drakari protection agreements. 8 other species have made similar requests. The Velkrin Syndicate operated in 40 systems. Every government that looked the other way, that accepted bribes, that allowed criminals to flourish, they are all being exposed. Taijin tapped the datapad, bringing up news feeds from across the galaxy. Stories about the Dragon Queen's rescue were everywhere. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on her side. You see, Chancellor, people are not angry at Queen Mirai. They are angry that their own governments did nothing. They are angry that a criminal syndicate operated openly for decades while the Galactic Union filed paperwork. One queen and one fleet accomplished what your entire organization failed to do. Inwu's face went even paler. This will destabilize. It will change things, Taijin agreed. Perhaps for the better. The Chancellor left shortly after, his threats ringing hollow. As the door closed behind him, Bora allowed herself a small smile. Well handled, Ambassador? I simply told the truth, Tajin said, though I admit I have been waiting years to put that pompous fool in his place. Mirai stood ready to return to the child, but Lieutenant Doyen stopped her. Your Majesty, if I may, my government would like to propose a formal alliance. Not just between Drakkar 7 and Earth, but something new. A mutual protection agreement that includes provisions for shared defense and cultural exchange. Your government wants to tie itself to a ruler who just defied the Galactic Union? Mirai asked, amused. My government wants to tie itself to a ruler who actually protects her people, Doyen replied, and who has proven that she values human lives as much as her own species. Soman spoke up quietly. What happens now? To us, I mean. Can we stay on Drakkar 7, or will the situation force us to leave? Leave? Mirai looked genuinely surprised. Why would you leave? The sanctions, the political pressure, mean nothing to me, Mirai interrupted. You are welcome on Drakkar 7 for as long as you wish to stay. You and your son both. In fact, I hope you will stay. I have grown quite accustomed to having you there. We will, Yan said firmly. We know June is safest with you to protect him. Over the following days, as the fleet returned to Drakkar 7, the full scope of what had happened became clear. The Velkrin Syndicate was in chaos. Without their main base and with their leader dead, the criminal organization was tearing itself apart. Other governments, embarrassed by their inaction, launched their own raids on syndicate operations. Dr. Yuna was relocated to Drakkar 7 under protective custody. She gave testimony that helped dismantle dozens of trafficking networks. In return, she was offered asylum and a chance to use her scientific skills for legitimate research. Vek, a Velkrin guard who had surrendered during the battle rather than fight to protect criminals, also received asylum. He had been forced into service by the Syndicate and was grateful for a second chance. He would eventually join the Drakkari security forces, his knowledge of criminal operations proving invaluable. When the fleet entered orbit around Drakkar 7, thousands had gathered to welcome them home. The news of the rescue had spread, and the Drakkari people celebrated their queen's victory. But more than that, they celebrated the child who had brought such change to their world. Queen Miri carried baby June herself as they disembarked. The crowd roared its approval. Hyun and Soman walked beside her, no longer just human diplomats but family to the Dragon Queen. That evening, in the palace, Miri sat on her throne with June playing contentedly on her lap. The child had recovered quickly, his resilience a testament to human adaptability. He babbled happily, showing no lasting trauma from his ordeal. Commander Bora approached, her expression thoughtful. My queen, I must confess something. When you first bonded with the human child, I did not understand. I thought perhaps it was sentiment or loneliness. I was wrong. Oh? Mirai looked up, curious. This child has changed everything. Because of him, we formed an alliance with humanity. Because of him, we destroyed a criminal empire. Because of him, other species look to us not with fear but with hope. One small human brought about more change than a century of diplomacy. He did not do it alone, Mirai said, touching June's soft hair gently. But yes, he is remarkable, as are his parents, as are all humans, I think. They have a gift for connection that we could learn from. Elder Sunwoo, who had been listening from the shadows, stepped forward. With your permission, Your Majesty, I would like to propose something. A training program where human and Drakkari soldiers learn from each other. We have much to teach them about combat and survival, but they have much to teach us about adaptability and cooperation. Approved, Mirai said immediately. Make it happen. As the sun set over Drakkar 7, casting the throne room in golden light, baby June reached up and touched Queen Mirai's face. She smiled, a true smile of joy that her advisors had rarely seen in 3 centuries. The child was home. The child was safe. And the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Family was not defined by species or biology, but by love and the willingness to fight for those you cherished. The Dragon Queen had a human child, and she would burn the universe before she let anyone threaten him again. 5 years had passed since the day baby June was stolen and rescued. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. But nowhere was the change more visible than on Drakkar 7. In the palace gardens, a small figure ran between the crystal formations, laughing with pure joy. June was 5 years old now, tall for his age with dark eyes that sparkled with intelligence. He wore clothes that combined human and Drakkari styles, practical pants and a shirt but decorated with scales patterns that marked him as a child of House Drakkar. "June, slow down," Soman called after him, smiling despite her words. The boy skidded to a stop near a fountain, grinning back at his mother. "But Commander Bora said I need to practice my running. She says speed is important in combat. You are 5 years old. You do not need combat training yet. Elder Sunwoo says I should start young. He started when he was 4. Soman sighed, but she was still smiling. Her son was growing up surrounded by warriors and diplomats, learning lessons from both humans and Drakkari. It was an unusual childhood, but it was filled with love. Jan emerged from the palace carrying a data pad. He looked tired but content. His role had expanded over the years from simple diplomat to an actual bridge between two species. He now advised on the integration programs that had become so successful. "There you are," he said, kissing Soman's cheek and ruffling June's hair. "The delegation from New Terra has arrived. They want to sign the protection agreement. That makes 23 human colonies under Drakkari protection," Soman noted, "and 12 non-human species," Hyon added. "The Drakkar Accords have become the most significant alliance in this sector." The Drakkar Accords had been signed 3 months after June's rescue. It started as a simple mutual defense treaty between Drakkar 7 and human colonies, but it had grown into something much larger. Other species, seeing how the Drakkari and humans worked together, wanted to join. The Accords emphasized protection of civilians, especially children, and zero tolerance for trafficking and slavery. The Galactic Union had protested at first, claiming the Accords undermined their authority. But they had little choice but to accept it. Public opinion strongly favored the alliance. Queen Mireille had become a symbol of protection and justice across the galaxy. "Papa, can I sit in on the treaty signing?" June asked hopefully. "If your mother agrees," Hyon said. Soman pretended to think about it, enjoying her son's eager expression. "You may sit in, but you must be quiet and respectful." "I will. I promise." June bounced with excitement. An hour later, in the great throne room, representatives from New Terra stood before Queen Mireille. The Dragon Queen had not changed much in 5 years. She still radiated power and authority, but those who knew her well noticed the difference, a warmth in her eyes that had not been there before. June sat on a cushion beside the throne, watching everything with wide eyes. He understood enough to know this was important, even if he did not grasp all the details. The representative from New Terra, a woman named Ambassador Hana, bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, New Terra formally requests inclusion in the Drakkar Accords. We have reviewed the terms and accept all provisions." "Tell me," Mireille said, "why does New Terra seek this alliance?" "Honestly, Your Majesty? Because you keep your word. When others were kidnapped from our colony last year, Drakkari ships arrived within days. You did not wait for paperwork or diplomatic permission. You simply helped. That is the kind of ally we need." Mireille nodded slowly. "The Drakkar Accords are not just words on a treaty. They are a promise. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will respond to injustice swiftly and without hesitation. But this cuts both ways. Members of the Accords must also uphold these principles." "Can New Terra commit to this?" "We can, and we will." "Then welcome, Ambassador Hana. Welcome to an alliance built not on politics but on shared values." As the formal ceremony continued, June whispered to his mother, "Mama, why do they all want to join?" Soman knelt beside him, speaking quietly. "Because your mother, both of your mothers, showed them that it is possible to do what is right even when it is difficult. They showed that protecting people matters more than following complicated rules. Like when Queen Mireille saved me. Exactly like that." After the ceremony, as guests mingled in the reception hall, Lieutenant Doyen, now promoted to captain, approached Hyon. He had become a permanent liaison between human and Drakkari forces, respected by both sides. "The training program is exceeding all expectations," Doyen reported. "We have over 500 humans training with Drakkari instructors, and about 200 Drakkari learning from our tactical specialists. Any problems with integration?" "A few cultural misunderstandings, but nothing serious. Actually, the soldiers are getting along better than the diplomats did." Doyen smiled. "Apparently shared suffering during training creates strong bonds." Elder Sunwoo, overhearing this, chuckled. His scales had dulled slightly with age, but his eyes remained sharp. "Pain is an excellent teacher. and an excellent way to build respect. Your human soldiers are weaker than ours, but they never quit. They fall down, they get back up. This impresses my warriors greatly. And the Drakari combat techniques are unlike anything we have, Doyen admitted. The way you use bioplasma breath in close quarters, your natural armor. Our soldiers are learning to work alongside abilities they never imagined. Commander Bora joined them, her armor polished for the diplomatic event. Over the years, she had become close friends with the human family. She visited often, sometimes just to play with June or share a quiet meal with Jan and Soman. Speaking of training, she said, young June has been asking when he can begin proper lessons. Soman groaned. He is 5. I was 4 when I started, Bora said with a grin. But if you wish, we can wait until he is 6. 10, Soman countered. 7. 8. And that is my final offer. They shook hands, both smiling. It had become a running joke between them, this negotiation over June's future training. Across the room, Queen Mirai stood with Ambassador Tejan, watching the mixing of species and cultures. The old human had officially retired from diplomatic service but remained on Drakar 7 as an advisor. You have built something remarkable here, Tejan observed. An alliance that actually works. It works because it is honest, Mirai replied. We do not pretend to agree on everything. Humans and Drakari are very different, but we agree on what matters most, protecting the innocent, fighting injustice, and valuing life. The Galactic Union is worried. They see their influence declining. Let them worry. Their influence was built on bureaucracy and empty promises. Ours is built on action and trust. Mirai paused. Though I admit I never intended to create an alliance. I simply wanted my child back. And in doing so, you showed the galaxy what leadership really means. At that moment, June ran up to Queen Mirai, tugging on her robes. Mother, can you show the ambassador from New Terra your flame? She has never seen a Drakari breathe fire before. Mirai laughed, the sound deep and genuine. Perhaps later, little flame. When we are not indoors. June called her mother now, naturally and without confusion. He had 2 mothers and 1 father, and this seemed perfectly normal to him. On Drakar 7, no one questioned it. The boy was blessed with 3 parents who would die to protect him. As the evening continued, Dr. Yuna, now director of xenobiological research at the Drakari Science Institute, presented her latest findings. Her work focused on improving medical cooperation between species, using her knowledge to heal rather than harm. We are making significant progress in cross-species medicine, she reported. Understanding human and Drakari biology has allowed us to develop treatments that work for both. We have even had success with 3 other species in the alliance. This is the future, Mirai told the assembled guests. Not conquest or competition, but cooperation. We are stronger together than we ever could be apart. Late that night, after the guests had departed, the palace grew quiet. In June's bedroom, decorated with both human toys and Drakari artifacts, Soman tucked her son into bed. Mama, June said sleepily, why do I have 2 mothers? It was not the first time he had asked, but the question took different forms as he grew older and understood more. Because love is not limited, Somin said, stroking his hair. Queen Mirai loves you as much as I do. She would do anything to keep you safe, and I am grateful for that. Does that make me special? You are special because you are you. But yes, having 3 parents who love you very much does make you lucky. I am lucky, June agreed, yawning. Good night, Mama. Good night, my heart. Soman found Hyun and Mirai on the terrace looking out over the city. Lights sparkled in the darkness, human and Drakari living side by side. He asked again, Soman said, joining them. About having 2 mothers. What did you tell him? Mirai asked softly. The truth. That love creates family, not biology. Mirai was quiet for a moment. I have lived for 300 years. I have ruled my people through wars and peace, through triumph and tragedy. But nothing has brought me more joy than that child calling me mother. You saved his life, Hyun said. No, he saved mine. Before June I was a queen, but I was alone. I had duty, responsibility, power. But I did not have family. He gave me that. You all gave me that. Soman took Mirai's clawed hand in her own small one. We are family, all of us, and that will never change. Years continued to pass. June grew into a remarkable young man, fluent in 7 languages, including Drakari. He studied history and diplomacy, but also trained in combat with both human and Drakari teachers. He became a symbol of the Alliance, proof that different species could not only coexist but thrive together. The Drakkar Accords expanded to include 47 member worlds. Trafficking in the region dropped by 70%. The few criminals who tried to operate learned quickly that they faced unified opposition from multiple species. The Alliance maintained rapid response forces that could reach any member world within days. The Galactic Union gradually adapted, incorporating some of the Accord principles into their own laws. Chancellor Inwu eventually retired, replaced by leaders who understood that the galaxy had changed. Other species tested the Alliance, probing for weakness. They found none. An attempted raid on a human colony was met with a Drakari fleet. A pirate attack on a Drakari mining station was countered by human special forces. The Alliance proved itself again and again. But the greatest test came when June was 12 years old. A rogue faction tried to kidnap him again, believing they could use him as leverage against both humans and Drakari. They did not realize what they had unleashed. Queen Mirai's response was even more devastating than it had been the first time. But now she did not act alone. Human fleets, Drakari warships, and vessels from a dozen allied species descended on the criminals like an avalanche. The rescue took 6 hours. The criminal organization ceased to exist within a day. When asked about it later, Captain Doyen, now an admiral, said simply, "They threatened our child. All of our child. That was their mistake." June stood on the palace terrace, now 15 years old, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow he would begin his formal diplomatic training. He would learn to speak for the Alliance, to represent both of his heritages. Queen Mirai joined him, her scales gleaming in the starlight. She moved slower now, age finally beginning to show even on her ancient form, but her eyes were still bright, still fierce. "Nervous?" she asked. "A little," June admitted. "There is so much to learn. You will do well. You have your mother's intelligence and your father's determination, and you have been taught by the best teachers in the Alliance. I do not want to disappoint anyone." Mirai placed a gentle claw on his shoulder. "Listen to me, little flame. You could never disappoint us. We do not love you because of what you might accomplish. We love you because you are ours. Remember that always." June looked up at her. At the queen who had burned a criminal empire to save him, who had defied the galaxy to bring him home, who had held him through nightmares and celebrated every small victory. "I will remember," he promised. "Always." And far across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, parents tucked their children into bed knowing they were protected. An alliance built on love had become a shield for the innocent. A human child and a dragon queen had shown the universe that family transcended all boundaries. The stars shone bright over Drakkar 7, and the future stretched ahead full of promise and hope. The story was far from over, but this chapter at least had a happy ending.